there have been a number of Democratic lawmakers who have been pushing for monthly universal basic income while this pandemic continues. And so Ro Khanna, for instance, Tim Ryan, they've been proposing $2,000 monthly until this pandemic, starts to, I guess, slow down and people are able to go back to work. So this would last for at least 6 months. And there was a poll to see how the public feels about it. Data for Progress, in partnership with the Justice Collaborative Institute, found that the majority of Americans, including a majority of Republicans, are in favor of this type of legislation. Nationally, a majority of the public see one-time payments of $2,000 as insufficient, because it is. 66% prefer recurring payments of $2,000 until a year after the president declares an end to the federal state of emergency. A majority of Republicans at 52% also agree with this view. Of course they do, because look, and again, I get it. There's all sorts of ridiculous people who are going out there in swing states. They're protesting. They're trying to, they're not doing anything productive. But I do think that there are people out there who are desperate and they don't know how to pay their bills. And what they've been offered by Congress so far has been insufficient. And so, of course, the majority of Americans are in favor of universal basic income in the middle of this pandemic.
And they also are not blind. I mean, they don't follow politics as much as not only us, but probably you guys if you're watching this video. But they can see that at a minimum, the stimulus package was over $2 trillion. And they can see that their check of $1,200 is a very small part of it. Even when you put the whole country in, it's still a very small part of the $2 trillion. So they have an instinctual sense that some folks got more than others, and they're 100% right about that. In fact, when they asked them how to pay for it, the biggest answer was tax the rich, wealth tax. And so, of course, that makes sense. Although the Republicans, funny enough, their number one answer was, just increase the deficit.
I know, it's amazing, right? It's so incredible.
Yeah. From the party who's like, you can't increase the deficit. There's no way. There's no way. Oh, the money's coming to me. Let's just increase the deficit. Who cares? Okay. And then I wanted to also add, one of the top people pushing this is Rashida Tlaib. Mm-hmm. So isn't it interesting? I mean, look at how active the Just Democrats are. In the story we covered earlier in the show about David Dayen breaking the story about how the banks can garnish your $1,200 check and keep it for themselves if you have outstanding loans or fees with them, the legislator fighting hardest on that issue was Ilhan Omar, another Justice Democrat. I'm telling you, and Ro Khanna is a Justice Democrat. Those 7 in Congress do more than the rest of Congress combined. It's amazing what happens when you free legislators from money in politics. Mm-hmm. None of those folks take corporate donations or corporate PAC money, and they're incredible in fighting for the average American as opposed to corporate donors.
Exactly. Rashida Tlaib has been tweeting about the details of this proposal. So it's referred to as the Automatic Boost to Communities Act, as opposed to corporations. And as you can see from the graphic that she also shared in her tweet, it would be a $2,000 a month guaranteed income for every person in America. So it isn't just $2,000 for an entire family. Every person would qualify for it. And then there would be an additional $1,000 a month for 1 year after the end of COVID-19. And that's important because, I was just reading a report today indicating that small businesses, 20% of small businesses are expected to completely shutter indefinitely because of the lack of real help they've received from Congress. Now, that's a little different from what this proposal is because this focuses on families, specific individuals. But people are going to need a little bit of support as the economy opens back up, and people who have lost their jobs in a lot of cases are going to have to look for new jobs, and that might take some time. And distributed via Boost debit card and funded by minting 2 $1 trillion coins. Oh, I'm sorry, $2 trillion coins. My bad. So, so it talks about how it would be paid for and how this would actually be done. But it's a much more robust way of helping people who need this money now. You know, they don't have to go through a bureaucracy. They don't have to deal with their, local unemployment office. It's guaranteed universal basic income until people get back on their feet.
Yeah, and actually, come to think of it, who was fighting the most for people's health care during this? It was AOC. Who was fighting to make sure that anyone who's unemployed or anyone in the country, period, could get Medicare during this? It was Pramila Jayapal. All Justice Democrats. And isn't it interesting that Fox News and honestly a lot of the mainstream media paint the Rashida Tlaibs and Ilhan Omars as radicals, when in reality, they're the ones fighting for the average American the most and supported by 2/3 of the country. So you can't argue that their positions are not popular. They're massively popular, including a majority of Republicans. And you also can't argue that we can't pay for it because we just did a $2 trillion stimulus and no one batted an eye. Everyone immediately thought we could pay for it when most of it was going to the biggest corporations in America.